Good morning. They say the story about a Jewish guy who's sitting on a bench in Moscow during Stalinist Russia, and he's caught by the KGB agent studying Hebrew, and he's immediately arrested. And the KGB agent tells him, "You're under arrest. You're studying Hebrew because you want to immigrate to Israel, which was then under Turkish rule, which was in a fight which was at war with the Russians, and you want to overthrow the Russian government." And the guy says, "What are you talking about? I have no intentions to immigrate. I have no intentions to leave this country. I'm just studying Hebrew because I figured what happens if I die one day and I come to heaven and they speak Hebrew in heaven." So the KGB officer looks at him and says, "And what happens if you go to hell?" And he says, "Oh, I'm not worried about that. I speak Russian fluently." You know, the year was 1927. Lenin passed away in 1924 and was taken over by Josef Stalin, who in his 30 years of reign ruthlessly murdered 30 million of his own people, butchered them. And a big target of his was the Jewish people and the Jewish religion. Stalin wanted the Jews to take on the ethos of communism, of socialism, and whatever else he had to sell, all the propaganda, this heaven that they would live under, so to speak. But really it was a living hell for the Jewish people. And he ruthlessly went after the Jews. In fact, he even had something called the Yevesiekta, which was a group of Jewish traitors who became the police. And their job was to spy on the Jewish people and to get them to leave their Judaism and accept communism as their new religion. And there was one single man, a Hasidic man, a Rebbe, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, who single-handedly took on the fight against Stalin and for the perseverance of Judaism. And in fact, during the 10 years of 1920 to 1930, the Lubavitcher Rebbe opened 600 yeshivas in Russia, which were forbidden. 600! Now, many of them only lasted a few weeks till they were caught by the Yevesiekta and the KGB, and then, of course, they were closed down. But many Chassidim took the oath under any circumstances to fight for Judaism till their death and to preserve the Jewish people. And it all came to a culmination in 1927 when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Josef Schneerson, was arrested by the KGB and taken to the worst prison called Spalerke, which made Rikers Island look like heaven, like paradise. And he was taken there and sentenced to death. And afterwards his sentence was commuted to 10 years in exile, which no one survived. And later commuted to 3 years in exile. And finally on the 12th of Tammuz, which was yesterday, he was given the news, the miraculous news that he would be freed. And today, on the 13th of Tammuz, he was released miraculously from prison. People who had done far, far less than him suffered death and tremendous struggle. In fact, as some of you might know, my own grandfather, my mother's father, sat in prison for 2 years for being caught as the dean of one of these underground yeshivas and for taking all the responsibility on himself and not allowing the students or their parents to get punished. My uncle, Mendel Futterfass, the famed Chassid, sat 10 years in Siberia in the Gulag just for being Jewish and trying to save the Jewish people from the murderous Stalin. And the Frierdiker Rebbe knew that the heart of the Jewish people in Russia was passionate, was strong, cared about their religion, and they just needed the support and the love to overcome this butcher Stalin. You think about today, here we are, Stalin is gone, Lenin is gone. We still fear Putin in Russia. They still make us trouble. But look where communism is, and look where Chabad and the Rebbe's vision of Judaism is that survived. In our own community, we're very lucky to have a beautiful, powerful Russian community who came out during the fall of communism with zero Judaism, knowing nothing, and came to the free world of America. And instead of saying, wow, we could make it, we could be successful, we could celebrate and become powerful and rich, which they all have become successful, thank God. They embraced their Judaism. They wanted to study. They come to Shul Shabbos, they wrap tefillin, they light Shabbos candles. So many of them who never had the opportunity to have a bris. I myself took them to New York at age 30, 40, 50 to have a bris. The self-sacrifice of these Jewish people who suffered so much, who had to have Jid on their passport and had to be able to survive beatings and hatred, are today embracing Judaism in the greatest way. And it tells us so much about the Jewish people. Here we live in America, where everything is free and everything is taken for granted, and we could celebrate our Judaism, and we can wear a kippah, and we can light Shabbos candles, and we could be the Jews we're supposed to be. Yet sometimes we reject it, or we're afraid of it, or we're shy of it, or we have no interest in it. And here are these people who are able to appreciate what they had gone through, that their Judaism was taken away from them, they're robbed from them, their parents, their grandparents. And today in America, they embrace it. And you think about the sacrifice that the previous Rebbe had. And I remember all the years growing up in New York during the Iron Curtain, how the Rebbe cried for the Russian Jewry not being able to celebrate their Judaism and suffering in the greatest ways. And the Rebbe sent people who were able to go diplomatically as spies, to bring tefillin, to bring letters from the Rebbe to them, and vice versa. There's a fascinating video that Jewish Educational Media just came out with. That's a 15-minute video. I'll post it in the link of Rabbi Bera Levy, who's the head of the OK Kosher establishment, and how he was able to go to Russia. And the Rebbe would send him, and he would go from place to place being followed by the KGB and inspire these Chassidim and these Jews who went through such self-sacrifice yet never gave up their religion. And he would come back to New York, to the Rebbe's office, and the Rebbe, they would put up a projector, and the Rebbe would watch the video. And they would pause the video each time, and the Rebbe would ask him questions. And the Rebbe would cry when he would think about these people who were so far, as we would say, beyond the Mesech HaBarzel, the Iron Curtain, fighting just to be able to be Jewish, just to be able to celebrate their religion and who they were. And the Rebbe prayed for them, and we celebrated them. And here we live in a country, in a place that we can celebrate our Judaism, that we can light Shabbos candles, that we can wrap tefillin, that we can celebrate Shabbos and holidays and wear a kippah and wear tzitzis. No one tells us we can't. We have to be inspired by these Jews and the miraculous fall of the Iron Curtain and who these people became. And take this to heart, to celebrate our Judaism, to engage in it, to embrace it, to love it, and to make it who we are. Because spirituality, godliness, faith lifts us up. It connects us to who we are, to our spiritual soul, and to our internal happiness. And I'll finish with one little story. It's a song my children love singing. It was a camp song that was made out of this story. There was a chassid, a young child, 10 years old, I think, 8 years old, who was in Russia. And one of the times when Rabbi Levy came from the OK, he had the opportunity to smuggle out a letter, a telegram to the Rebbe. Imagine, he's a chassid living in Russia behind the Iron Curtain. Who knows if and when he would ever get out. And he gets this opportunity, one opportunity, to write a letter to the Rebbe. And what does he write in the letter? And this is, we only heard this from the Rebbe at a gathering, as the Rebbe cried as he said these words. This chassid writes, this young kid writes a letter to the Rebbe. He doesn't ask, oh please help me get out from behind the Iron Curtain. Oh please, I need food. He says, oh please, I need sleep. That's not what he asked for, the Rebbe said. And the Rebbe said in Yiddish, he asked for one thing. Was soll ich tun, als es daven sich nicht? What shall I do that my spiritual senses I don't pray the way I would like to. I don't connect to my spirituality the way I could. And the Rebbe said, imagine one opportunity to write a letter. And what does he write? About his connection to God and his spirituality. That is the power of the Yiddish neshama that survived 30 years of Stalin, that survived Lenin before him. And today, we have so many Russian Jews in our own shul, in our own community, who are proud Jews. Today in Moscow and in Dnepropetrovsk and in Samarkand and in every city in Russia, there's Chabad and yeshivas and people walking around with payas and yarmulkes and beards and tzitzis and women dressed the way Jews are supposed to be, celebrating the holidays. This is the miracle of the 13th of Tammuz. This is the miracle of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe and by extension the Rebbe, to have Jewish survival through the tyranny of Stalin. And today, we have to embrace our Judaism. God bless you. Good Yom Tif. Have a great day. See you all tomorrow.